Hey guys, welcome to our review of the first episode of Doom Patrol on the DC Universe, enticingly titled Pilot. Before you get started, make sure you click that subscribe button, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Right away, the opening of this show tells you this is something very, very different. Something wonderfully and weirdly different. But before we get started, let's remember, this is a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen it yet, you're pretty safe. I'm not going to reveal anything that hasn't already been in the trailers, including comic details, since for many, this is their first exposure to the group. So let's get rolling. Although you got a taste of Doom Patrol during the 4th episode of Titans, this is clearly way farther out there. Weird and spacey and adult. Much more adult than its predecessor on the DC Universe. There is a full bucket of swearing and nudity and some sexual content. This is truly an R-rated series. On this channel, we tend not to do anything that's not too kid-friendly, so this show might not be for the younger kids, but it is a lot of fun. Believe me, Batman is light fare compared to this episode, so just remember that. Now, this is a comic show. The show just dives into it with wild abashment. It is clearly not making a show for critics, although some may very well like it. It felt like a massive nod to the comics and the fans of the book of bringing in new fans in the same way other television series have expanded their fan base. To me, think X-Men the animated series. Now, if you're unfamiliar, all these are based on characters created by Arnold Drake and Bob Haney and artist Bruno Primanti. The whole episode is essentially an origin story of the least socially acceptable superhero team in comic book history. Each and every one of Doom Patrol's heroes has their origins deeply rooted in some sort of personal tragedy. Unlike the Titans, for example, their powers are not something any of them see as something that has made their lives better. Quite the opposite. For all of them, being super means having to live on the edges of society where the things that make them strong and unique can't be seen by the outside world, and they don't get to enjoy the small things that everyday life provides to normal people. Doom Patrol makes the whole body horror subtext of modern comics a core part of its story and never lets you forget how that affects the everyday lives of the team. Unlike other superhero teams such as the X-Men, each of the Chief's charges first came to him in moments where they were certain their lives were over. You actually see this play out for Beast Boy in that episode of Titans, remember? The team is unique, and even though we got a taste of them in that Titan episode, it was still quite fun. Rita Farr, played by April Balby, nails the glamour queen of the 1950s silver screen before she suddenly becomes a nightmare of her own making and something anything but glamorous. Hotshot fighter pilot Larry Traynor, played by Matt Balmer, walks through the world wrapped in bandages after a freak plane crash leaves him horribly disfigured and possessed by something more, something very, very electric. And then there's race car driver Cliff Steele, played by Brandon Fraser, also known as Robot Man. After his body is left mangled from an accident and the Chief places his brain in some giant metal clunky body, bad as that sounds, that is just the beginning of his trauma. He's probably the central character of this episode if we're being fair, and we see quite a bit of Brendan Fraser himself. Then there's Jane, also known as Crazy Jane, played by Diane Guaro. We don't get a lot of her origin, but we do get the idea that she has as many superpowers as she does personalities, and is a complete stick of dynamite ready to go off at any moment. Every one of them understands just how easy it would be for them to fall and let their powers get out of control, and we see this as each of their origin stories unfold. They are all held together by Timothy Dalton's The Chief, who we don't see quite a bit of during the episode, does nail the mysterious motivations that the Chief always seems to have in the comics. Then there's Alan Tudyk's Mr. Nobody. Man oh man. I loved him. I loved him. He has got to be one of the creepiest, most unique comic bad guys brought to life in a really long time. The sheer oddity and weirdness of his character is a welcome change to the genre, and just a wonderful, great take on something new. So this is a spoiler-free review, and I don't want to reveal story details beyond the basics. The story does play out as many origin stories go, so not very many structural surprises. Not that there are no surprises at all. Trust me, the last scene, I was surprised. As I said, Robot Man's backstory is a big focus of this episode, and we probably get to know him more than anybody else, although it's hard to miss Rita. The two big action pieces were fun and exciting, made me care, and were well put together. I saw early reviewers' copy, so I am unsure if all the CGI was done, but most of it looked pretty far north of just okay. It's still a TV budget, but I wasn't distracted by any of it. The show is a lot of fun, and it does an excellent job telling all those fairly complicated origin stories in one episode. They completely nail the outcast, a bunch of weirdos aspect that has been a core part of the team from the beginning. And the episode closes out in a way which I only can describe with one word: weird. Please give me more. As you know, here for our reviews, we do 4 categories on a scale of 1 to 5 and then try to average it all together. So let's break it down. For the story, we gave it 3.75, a solid origin story, solid episode, but no surprises. For cast, we gave it a 4. Everybody's great, no complaints, but there's always some room for improvement. Also, for presentation, we're going to give it a 4. Visuals and CGI were pretty darn good, and the costumes, as well as the sets, were pretty great. And finally, fun. We're going to go with 4.25. I had more fun in this than most of the episodes of the Titans. It didn't really leave me waiting. That was a pretty nice change from previous episodes from the DC Universe. Thank you very much. So all in all, we're going to average it all up, giving us a total average score of 8 out of 10. I can't wait for the next one. Tune in Friday, come back, and tell me what you think in the comments below. I really like this episode, and I hope you guys do too. See you next week.